Imagine you are 20 years old, you are full of life, full of dreams, and you have your whole future ahead of you. You decide to hitchhike to a friend's birthday party. You get into a car with a man and a woman who seem kind, who seem safe, who seem like ordinary people. And then, without warning, your entire world is taken from you. Not just your freedom, not just your safety, your entire sense of reality. This is the true story of Colleen Stan, a young woman who was kidnapped, controlled, and kept as a prisoner for over 7 years. This is not fiction. This really happened, and by the end of this story, you will understand why experts, psychologists, and law enforcement around the world call this one of the most disturbing cases of psychological manipulation ever recorded. It was May 19, 1977. Colleen Stan was a 20-year-old woman living in Oregon, United States. She was kind, trusting, and adventurous. She needed a ride to Red Bluff, California to attend a friend's birthday celebration. Hitchhiking was common in those days, and Colleen had done it before without any trouble. She stood by the road with a thumb out, hoping for a safe ride. A car pulled over. Inside were a man named Cameron Hooker, his wife Janice Hooker, and their baby. They looked like a normal family. They were smiling. They seemed harmless. Colleen got into the car. She had absolutely no idea that she had just made a decision that would steal the next 7 years of her life. For the first few hours, everything seemed fine. Cameron and Janice were polite. They made small talk. The baby sat quietly. Colleen relaxed. And then, about an hour into the drive, Cameron pulled over and said he needed to put something on Colleen's head. He told her it was for safety reasons. He told her not to worry. And before Colleen could fully understand what was happening, a wooden box specially constructed, padded on the inside, was locked around her head. It was shaped like a head restraint. It covered her eyes, her ears, and blocked almost all of her senses. She could not see. She could barely hear. She was sitting in the back seat of a moving car, completely helpless, completely blind, and completely terrified. That wooden box was only the beginning. Cameron Hooker had been planning this for a long time. He and his wife Janice had an arrangement. Janice had agreed to allow Cameron to keep a female slave, a real human being, as a slave as part of their relationship. Cameron had built the head box himself. He had researched psychological control. He had prepared a box underneath the couple's bed, a long wooden box, barely big enough for a human body, dark, silent, and suffocating. This would become Colleen's home for an enormous portion of the next 7 years. Think about that for a moment. A box under a bed, no light, no sound, no space to stretch, no way to know if it was day or night, just darkness and silence and the slow, crushing weight of complete isolation. When they arrived at the Hooker home in Red Bluff, California, Colleen was taken inside. Cameron told her clearly what her situation was. She was now his slave. She would follow his rules. She would obey him completely, and if she disobeyed, she would be punished severely. To make sure she never tried to escape, Cameron told Colleen about something called the Company. He told her the Company was a powerful secret organization that watched over slaves and their masters. He told her the Company had agents everywhere. He told her that if she ever tried to run, the Company would find her, and they would kill her family. Colleen believed him. She had no reason not to. She was alone, terrified, and completely cut off from the outside world. But what happened next was something even the most experienced investigators would struggle to believe. Over the following weeks and months, Cameron Hooker built an elaborate psychological prison around Colleen. He created a document called the Slave Contract, a written agreement that Colleen was forced to sign, handing over total control of her life to Cameron. This document was Cameron's way of making the arrangement feel real, official, and permanent. He controlled every part of Colleen's day, what she ate, when she slept, how she moved, what she wore. He subjected her to physical punishment and psychological torture whenever she did not meet his standards. And through all of this, the box remained. Whenever Cameron felt she needed to be punished or simply contained, she was put back into that dark, silent, suffocating wooden box beneath the bed. Now close your eyes for just a moment and try to imagine this. You are lying inside a wooden box. It is just barely large enough for your body. The lid is closed. It is locked. You cannot move your arms fully. The air is warm and thin. You cannot see anything. You cannot hear anything. You do not know if it is morning or night. You do not know if anyone is home. You do not know if anyone will ever open that box again. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like days. This was Colleen's reality. This was her life, and she endured it not for one night, not for 1 week, but for years. If you enjoy true crime stories that stay with you long after they end, subscribe now to True Crime Story USA. What makes this case so deeply disturbing, so different from most kidnapping cases, is that Colleen was not simply locked away and forgotten. Cameron Hooker allowed her to do certain things. He eventually allowed her to run and exercise. He allowed her to get a job at a local motel where she worked as a regular employee. She interacted with co-workers. She had normal conversations. She walked around in the world like a free person. And yet she never ran. She never asked for help. She never called the police. To the outside world, she appeared to be a completely normal young woman living a completely normal life. But what was really happening inside her mind was something far more complicated and far more terrifying than any locked door could create. Cameron Hooker understood psychology in a dangerous and calculated way. He understood that physical chains are not the most powerful way to control a human being. The most powerful chains are the ones built inside the mind. Over months and years, he systematically dismantled Colleen's sense of self. He isolated her emotionally. He rewarded her when she obeyed, and punished her when she did not. He created a world in which he was the only source of safety, the only source of approval, the only constant presence, and the company, that fictional organization he had invented, acted as an invisible wall between Colleen and any thought of escape. She genuinely believed that if she ran, her family would die. That belief was enough to keep her prisoner, even when the physical doors were open. Psychologists today refer to what happened to Colleen Stan as coercive control. It is the same mechanism seen in cult leaders, in abusive relationships, and in prisoners of war. The human mind, under enough pressure, under enough isolation, under enough fear, begins to reorganize itself around the source of its captivity. The captor becomes the center of the world. Survival becomes dependent on pleasing them. This is not weakness. This is not stupidity. This is what extreme psychological trauma does to a human brain, and Colleen Stan experienced it at one of its most extreme and documented levels. In 1981, 4 years into her captivity, something changed. Cameron Hooker told Colleen that the company had reviewed her performance and decided she had earned a reward. He told her she was now allowed to write letters to her family. She was allowed to contact them. Slowly, he allowed her more freedoms while always maintaining the psychological grip, always reminding her of the company, always keeping that fear alive. Colleen began writing to her family. They had believed she had simply chosen to leave and live her own life. They had no idea what had happened to her. They had no idea where she really was or what she was going through. And then something happened that changed the trajectory of the entire case. Cameron Hooker made a decision that would eventually be his undoing. He allowed Colleen to attend church. It was at church that Colleen began to form relationships outside of the Hooker household. She began to reconnect with a sense of the world beyond her captivity. She began to hear a different voice, a voice that told her she had value, that she mattered, that she was a person and not a possession. She still had no idea, however, that the most shocking revelation of her entire captivity was yet to come. In 1984, 7 years after Colleen had first gotten into that car, Janice Hooker told her the truth. She told Colleen that the company did not exist. She told her it had all been invented by Cameron. There was no organization. There were no agents watching her family. There was no contract that held any real power. There never had been. The entire structure that had kept Colleen psychologically imprisoned for 7 years was built on nothing but words and fear. For a moment, try to imagine what that realization must feel like. 7 years of your life, 7 years of darkness and boxes and pain and obedience, all held in place by a lie. If you enjoy true crime stories that stay with you long after they end, subscribe now to True Crime Story USA. After Janice told her the truth, Colleen Stan left the Hooker household. She returned to her family. She tried to rebuild her life, but the story did not end there, because for 3 more years Colleen said nothing to the authorities. She did not report what had happened to her. She did not tell the police. She struggled in silence, trying to process what she had survived, trying to understand it, trying to find a way to live with it. And Cameron Hooker continued living his life as if nothing had happened. It was not until 1984 that Janice Hooker consumed by guilt and the deterioration of her marriage to Cameron, went to law enforcement. She told investigators everything. She described the box. She described the contracts. She described the years of abuse and control. And investigators listened in disbelief, not because they doubted her, but because what she was describing was so methodical, so calculated, so deeply disturbing, that it challenged everything they thought they understood about captivity and control. Cameron Hooker was arrested in 1984. The case went to trial in 1984 and 1985. In court, Colleen Stan testified about what she had endured. She sat in front of a jury and described the box. She described the head restraint. She described the years of darkness and silence. She described the fear of the company and what it had done to her mind. She was cross-examined by defense attorneys who tried to suggest that she had chosen to stay, that she had been free, that the whole arrangement had been consensual. And Colleen, this woman who had survived 7 years of psychological captivity, answered every question with strength and clarity and truth. What the jury discovered when they reviewed the full evidence shocked even the most experienced legal professionals in that courtroom. The wooden box was presented as evidence. The slave contract was presented as evidence. Witnesses testified to the systematic nature of Cameron's control. The prosecution painted a picture of a man who had spent years engineering the psychological destruction of another human being, not through violence alone, but through manipulation, isolation, fear, and the careful dismantling of a person's sense of self and reality. Cameron Hooker was convicted of multiple counts of kidnapping and multiple counts of rape. In 1985, he was sentenced to over 104 years in prison. He has been denied parole multiple times. Janice Hooker, who cooperated with prosecutors, was given immunity in exchange for her testimony. She has lived with the weight of what she allowed to happen, what she participated in for the rest of her life. Colleen Stan survived. She went on to rebuild her life. She got married. She had a daughter. She eventually spoke publicly about her experience, not to seek sympathy, but to help others understand the mechanics of psychological control, to help people recognize the signs of coercive abuse, to help people understand why victims do not always run, why they do not always call for help, why the absence of physical change does not mean the absence of captivity. Colleen Stan became a voice for survivors, and her story became a landmark case in the study of coercive control and psychological manipulation. The Colleen Stan case is taught in criminology courses. It is studied by psychologists and law enforcement professionals around the world. It has been used to shape the way investigators understand and respond to cases of prolonged captivity and coercive control. Because what Cameron Hooker understood, and what this case proves beyond any doubt, is that the most powerful prison ever built is the one constructed inside a person's own mind. If you enjoy true crime stories that stay with you long after they end, subscribe now to True Crime Story. Think about the wooden box one more time. Think about lying in total darkness, in total silence, in a space barely large enough to hold your body. Think about not knowing what time it is. Think about not knowing if the person who put you in there will ever let you out. Think about the fear. Think about the helplessness. Think about the slow, crushing realization that no one is coming to save you, and that even if the door were open, your own mind has been turned into the lock. That is what Colleen Stan lived through. Not for one night, not for 1 week, for 7 years. She got into a car on a sunny day in May 1977. She was 20 years old. She was on her way to a birthday party, and the next time she truly breathed free air, truly understood that she was free, that no organization was watching her, that no contract bound her, that the lies that had imprisoned her were only lies. 7 years of her life were already gone. 7 years of her youth, 7 years of her freedom, taken not by chains or walls or locked doors, but by the darkest and most calculated kind of human cruelty, the kind that lives inside words, inside fear, inside the slow and deliberate destruction of another person's reality. Cameron Hooker built a box out of wood, but the box that held Colleen Stan for 7 years was built out of something far harder to break. And somewhere tonight, in a prison in California, the man who built that box is still alive, still breathing, while the woman he tried to destroy is also still alive, still breathing, and stronger than he ever imagined she could be. She got into a car. She never arrived at the birthday party, and the world she left behind had no idea it would be 7 years before she found her way back to it. If this story shook you, if it made you think, if it stayed with you even for a moment, then hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell notification and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because these stories are real, these victims were real, and the least we can do is make sure the world never forgets them. Welcome to True Crime Story USA, where every story matters.